Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, to hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets, cause we know who we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. I can't take no loss, my team hold no L's, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
Welcome back. Welcome back. A Wednesday show. Man, Scotty's Yankees, they barely hung on last night. And it's funny, yeah, they're down 2-1 to Toronto in the NLDS. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's Scotty's Yankees, so of course I'm going to say something. But it's funny, they had a big 7-run surge, pulled ahead, and the Yankee fans were so excited. And in my estimation, a little too excited. The Yankee fans were cheering as if they know this might be their last hurrah with this team. But they did stave off elimination. I have no room to talk. My Mets, another historic collapse. My team is a joke. No problem. I get it. The Mets are a joke. And by the way, another crash out is soon to come as the Bears are playing the Commanders this weekend. We're 2-2 now. I'm riding high now. All smiles right now. I'm countdown till total crash out. Just putting it out there. You know who else crashed out in a different way? Stephen Miller. Some of you are catching wind of an interview by Stephen Miller. You know, this guy's pretty slick, right? He's pretty camera savvy. He's got the party line. He knows how to tow it on camera. He knows how to attack these radicalized left CNN anchors and these know-it-all smarty pants reporters. He knows how to deal with them for the most part. But he had a little snafu. Yeah. He had a little problem. He went on with Sanchez. What's his first name? Boris Sanchez. He went on CNN with Boris Sanchez. Thank you, Scott. He's right there to bail me out. He went on CNN with Boris Sanchez. And he was doing his thing. And he was hitting the rhetoric. He was spinning the propaganda. You know, having a good old time. And then he made a bit of a snafu. What we perceive to be a snafu, and there are debates on exactly what may have happened here. I have one fringe theory that I'll toss in, but he had a little snafu, okay? He was doing the thing, and then he said a thing, a very interesting and kind of scary thing. And it kind of ground everything to a halt. Let's listen.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Oh, what?
Stephen?
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 Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
Oh, he can hear you, Boris.
It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that and get back to you after a quick break. Stay with CNN.
Woo! That is the quiet part out loud. Stephen? Stephen, are you there? Now, there are theories about what just happened there. Scotty and I put a few together. But the whole thing that caused this, that triggered this little malfunction, was plenary authority. Title 10 grants the president plenary authority. What is he talking about? What is plenary authority? Plenary authority refers to a single government official having absolute power over a particular matter. According to Cornell's Law School's Legal Information Institute, in the U.S., it is recognized as complete power over a particular area with no limitations. That is what Stephen Miller, with the microphone working and the camera equipment recording, said to Boris Sanchez that Title 10, which is the president's use of the military, right? It details the president's use of the military. Title 10 grants the president plenary authority. That's what that man just said. Total and complete control. Total and complete control. What happened? What happened there? Now, my fringe theory, I'll just get this out of the way. My fringe theory is that his human suit stopped working. It malfunctioned. It already was malfunctioning. The way he was pronouncing things, I thought I saw a little twitch. Yeah, circuit. Already the audio modulation was malfunctioning already. Circuit. And then the motor functioning modulations all went out of whack and he just froze. You saw it happen to McConnell about a year and a half ago. He was at that press gaggle and he was talking, doing his thing, and then he just... You remember that? His human suit stopped working. I'm saying Stephen Miller's human suit stopped working. The lizard people are doing really well for themselves. They have infiltrated the upper echelons of our government, but their human suit technology is lacking. There is room to grow in that particular area. But lizard people, I commend you. Look what you've accomplished up to now. Now, if you'd like to rejoin me in rationality, sane talk, real life, I'm not saying I don't actually believe that. I'm not going to say that I don't actually believe that. I'm going to say that I can recognize that that's insane. I'll say that. So, moving on from the insane, what happened there? My theory, and Scott likes this one, is twofold. One, we think that Miller, in like administration, briefings and meetings just between Stephen and the upper echelon, when they're devising their strategy and talking about what they have planned for the American people, I think, and Scott thinks, that Miller has dropped that term multiple times, right? Hey, Mr. President, we're going for plenary authority. We're going to go for a plenary philosophy with the military. Look what we're going to do here. We're going to use the National Guard and send them to blue cities. We're going to threaten blue cities if they don't adhere to our immigration policies, and then we're going to move the military in. It's going to be a plenary strategy. Right? He said it multiple times to Mr. Trump in private. And we think that he had a Freudian slip. I really believe this is true. He had a Freudian slip. He has talked about Title 10 and plenary authority within it to President Trump so many times that it just slipped out as he was rolling with the propaganda. And there was a lawyer or a lawyer's aide or a legal aide, somebody who's there to advise him before he goes in front of the whole country and says things. And we're guessing that person was either there in person or in his ear. And they're like, whoa, with the plenary stuff, Stephen, that's crazy. Stop. And Stephen's like, oh my God, I really just let the cat out of the bag. And he didn't know what to say. Now, I will give it to him if he quickly deduced that if I act like I can't hear him anymore, then he'll cut to commercial. That is a clever little piece of theater by him if he was able to critically think that fast, like, oh my God, I just really screwed up. If I just sit here like this, he'll cut to commercial. And that's exactly what happened. So Mr. Miller, Stephen? Yeah, exactly. It is thank you. Like when you're in a phone conversation that you want to end and you see no end in sight, you're like, yeah, can you, me, right? And then you just hang up, and then later on you say, hey, we had connection issues. What can I do? Right? He looked like a lizard. It's the first thing I thought of. He looked like a lizard. Those of you in Florida or in a warmer state, you can relate to this. He looked like a lizard that's crossing the road, crossing 95, realizes a car is barreling down on him and just goes, yeah. So we're going to play the clip again. Now that you've got the context, we're going to play the clip again. And then they continued the interview. And I'm going to read you, because we didn't get all of it, I'm going to read you what they said when they continued the interview. and see if you see a little bit of a cleanup at work. Here's the interview again. Now you've got the context.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen?
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 Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? Yes, he can hear you, Boris. He definitely can hear you. And he can also hear the lawyer screaming in his ear. You just screwed up, Steve. Stephen? Stephen, you just let the cat out of the bag, Stephen. Woo! I love to see that stone cold supremacist demeanor crumble live. Little Stevie finally made a boo-boo on air. I love it. I love it. So the president has plenary authority is what it ended on. And then they picked up the interview. What did they say when they picked up the interview? What did they say? Sanchez said, "It seems like our wires got crossed. You were describing the president's legal authority as you see it under Title 10. My question was whether the administration still plans to abide by that judge's order restricting any National Guard troops from being sent to Oregon." And what did he say this time? He didn't talk about plenary authority this time. He didn't talk about a unitary complete control over the military and the Department of War. No, that's not what he said this time. This time he said, well, the administration will abide by the ruling insofar as it affects the covered parties. Really? So the first time he asks you, will you abide by the courts who block your deployment of troops? He says, plenary authority under Title 10, bitches. Drops the mic. No, really, actually freezes. Right? He freezes. Uh-oh, I screwed up. So he's talking about, when asked about the deployment and the president's deployment of these troops, he says plenary authority and then realizes he screwed up. This time he's asked, will you abide by the court's orders? And he says, look, basically he's saying, paraphrasing, he's saying, any troop deployment that they've blocked specifically, we will adhere to. Meanwhile, like sneaky little snakes in the grass, they're grabbing other troops from other states, like the 200 troops from Texas that were already moved to Illinois. Those weren't blocked specifically yet. So he's moving those, right? Okay, they blocked the troop deployment in Oregon. Okay, they blocked that. And then they blocked the extra 200 from California that we already had control of, and we're appealing that. But you didn't specifically block these 200 troops in Texas, and they're headed to Chicago. Gotcha. No, he wasn't talking plenary authority on the second time around. He said the quiet part out loud. Scott and I truly believe that was a Freudian slip, something that he regularly says and aspires to. Kind of the overarching goal of what we've been seeing in terms of federalizing these troops. The military parade for our dear leader's birthday was all the signs you needed to know that he felt like he had plenary authority under Title 10. We all saw this for what it is. And I'm telling you right now, MAGA sees it for what it is too, and they're all about this action, boss. They love this action. Oh, really, Stephen? No, we heard you. We heard you. Our dear leader is going to take complete control of the military. That's where you're going. That's where this is headed, and we're all about it. MAGA is all about that action. That's a promise. As much as we are opposed to it, they are all for it. And I'm telling you right now, using that term, plenary authority, although I do truly believe it was a mistake, I'm telling you, you have to see it for the sign that it is. You file it right under the rhetoric talking about war zones in Portland and war zones in Chicago. You file it right under him deploying federal agencies, ATF, DEA, FBI, federal agencies to these cities in lieu of troops so far, and hoping to God that somebody screws up and really does some damage to one of these troops, because then the interpretation of the Insurrection Acts, it kicks in. It kicks in. Your local law enforcement could not stop the violence perpetrated on federal forces. This is an insurrection. And under an insurrection, I can do what I want with the troops. You file it right under there. This is the plan. It was extremely Freudian in nature. This is what they are doing. They are working actively to this goal. Plenary authority under Title 10 over the military. Total unitary control by Trump.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
My attorneys have done incredible work advancing President Trump's agenda and protecting the executive branch from judicial overreach.
Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House. You voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
5 days before the indictment of James Comey, he put this post up as instructions to you. He didn't mince words. He was very open and public that you should indict James Comey.
The entire cabinet was at that dinner.
Whether you took instructions from President Trump after he told you very directly to indict James Comey, which is weaponization.
Senator Blumenthal, I find it so interesting that you didn't bring any of this up during President Biden's administration when he was doing everything to protect Hunter Biden.
Attorney General.
Oh, man, one of these useless judiciary hearings. Oh, Pam. Now, I will say this, and I think it's important we make this clear. She was under oath. And, as James Comey can tell you, it is a felony to lie to the Senate. Okay? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. In the case of these people who are asked questions, you know, when it comes to the FBI and the DOJ especially, it is important what they say or do not say under oath to the Senate. It's important. They could be held accountable. So when you see them do the act, the thing that the Trump sycophants do, which is play games, counterpunch, attack, stick and move, and never actually answer anything, know that it's A, in accordance to the brand of the Trump administration, bleep me, no, bleep you. And 2, if we actually say anything, they might hold us accountable. If we actually lie, if we actually sit here and lie, they may be able to hold us accountable like we're trying to hold Comey accountable. And that's a bad thing. We can't have that. So we'll just not answer anything ever. And we'll attack to fill that time. All right? Just, I know you know already, but we have to frame it very clearly what their strategy in front of these boondoggle waste of time hearings are. They would be a complete waste of time if it weren't for these people being under oath. It's all theater. That's all it is, political theater. And the Democrats had a lot of things they wanted to talk to Pam about and got essentially no answers. I mean, essentially none. Now, she got grilled and she got defended by Republicans. This is how these things go. Patel got grilled, defended by Republicans. Hegseth got grilled, and defended by Republicans. That's how these go. That's how these go. And she was asked questions about Epstein. She was asked questions, about all sorts of stuff. Including the Epstein stuff was interesting. She was very indignant about that. She tried to fight back with accusations against Merrick Garland, talked about LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman. Dick Durbin asked her about, were you ordered to flag Trump's name in the Epstein files? She said, I'm not going to discuss any of that with you, Senator. Yeah, because if you discuss it, you'll lie. You'll lie. And Durbin said to her, eventually you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this. You won't do it today, but eventually you will. Ooh, Dick. Wow. That's fiery rhetoric out of a normally chilled, moderated Dick Durbin. Very calm individual, promising her own brand of retribution. So we'll watch for that. We'll see if anything comes from that. One thing that was interesting that was brought up was the Holman bribe. That was brought up. And that turned into a funny little, cagey little back and forth. Bondi said the Justice Department found no evidence of wrongdoing, okay? And we all saw what we saw, and I played it for you. The video of Holman receiving a $50,000 kava bag full of bribes, right? Those were undercover FBI agents posing as businessmen who were seeking government contracts in terms of the deportation policy, right? The president's overwhelming deportation and immigration policy has created, lanes for certain businesses to get government contracts to make big money during this. And so these FBI agents were posing as those businessmen, and they went to Tom Holman to secure contracts using a bribe of $50,000 in a kava bag and handed it to him, and he promised them results. It was on audio. Bondi says, Department of Justice found no evidence of wrongdoing. We dropped the case. Adam Schiff accused Bondi of stonewalling the committee's work. He's saying this is supposed to be an oversight hearing in which members of Congress can get serious answers to serious questions. She refused to say whether Holman actually kept the $50,000, and she told Adam Schiff, in response to what he said, you're clearly a failed lawyer. Okay, fine. I didn't say it was uninteresting theater. I said it was theater. Yeah, it's going to be fun in spots. Of course it is. She skirted questions on the Qatari jet. She skirted questions on Epstein's record. She skirted questions on the Holman bribe. We got a little mashup of some of the things she skirted. Let's hear from her.
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House. I'm not going to discuss any legal advice that my department may or may not have given or issued at the direction of the president. I am not going to discuss personnel matters or pending litigation in my office. I am not going to discuss any conversations I have or have not had. I'm not going to discuss anything about that with you. I'm not going to discuss personnel decisions. I am not going to discuss personnel decisions. I'm not going to discuss any conversations. You sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump. You're not going to sit here and slander Tom Homan. You would have to talk to Director Patel about that. I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money, that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company. You can talk to Director Patel about that. Will you apologize to Donald Trump for trying to impeach
the
him
answer is you won't support that.
after you now know that Joe Biden tried to cover up Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine? I wish that you loved your state of California as much as you hate President Trump.
Yeah, Scott. I wish you loved the Constitution and democracy as much as you love Trump, Miss Bondi. Yeah, that was a little funny part that got me laughing, is that in that shift back and forth, he said, because there's an audio recording of what went down between Holman. They've got audio of what they said. And he said, Schiff said, hey, would you release the audio recording of that meeting? And she said, will you apologize to Donald Trump? I love that. Now, she appeared before this committee in January, and at that time, she pledged that she would run a transparent, independent DOJ, independent from the president's influence. Now, that's something that you can't That's not something you can just say you lied, we're bringing you up on charges, because that's more subjective, right? To how you frame personally how, her actions while at the head of the DOJ. Is that, a direct lie that she promised? No, you can't. That's no. But that is what she promised. She promised transparency and independence. And Dick Durbin said, you are leaving an enormous stain in American history. That's what Dick Durbin said. Okay. And he said, and you heard her, he challenged, the president's decision to send the National Guard from Texas to Chicago. And Miss Bondi said, I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And that just, every time I hear that, it fundamentally bothers me when this administration plays the victim role and says, you all just are never Trumpers. You all just hate President Trump. Anybody who loves democracy at some point or another ends up hating President Trump. That's just kind of how that goes. They act so surprised that President Trump has garnered hate from certain sections of America with his immigration policy, how he hurts, private sector economics with his tariffs, trampling the First Amendment, pulling Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert off the air. You think America doesn't? He attacks us over and over and over again knowingly. And then his shills come out and say, you all hate Mr. Trump. You just hate him. Yes, many people hate Donald Trump. You at the upper echelons of the Republican Party need to understand that fact. A lot of you on the right have been told to hate Kamala, and you've been told to hate Biden. You've been told to hate Obama. But you don't have genuine hate in your heart for these people. You don't have enough knowledge of what effect they've had on your life. They haven't made you hurt in very real ways, like Donald Trump is making the American people hurt right now, and hurt when their healthcare premiums double or go away. That's real hurt. Some people hate Donald Trump, Miss Bondi.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things, fighting for America one mic drop at a time.
Colonel Bondi, why did you publicly claim to have the Epstein client list waiting for your review and then produce nothing relevant to that claim?
Senator Durbin, if you listen to my entire clip on that, I said I had not reviewed it yet, that it was sitting on my desk. Senator Durbin, I find it very interesting that you refused repeated Republican requests to release the Epstein flight logs.
What became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI paid to Mr. Homan in a paper bag, evidently?
The investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review by the FBI, agents, and DOJ prosecutors. They found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing.
And that was not my question. Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review
different question.
by the FBI agents,
That's a
by
different
Department
question.
of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question.
She knows damn well if she answers any of this stuff, A, honestly, well then that's the ball game. And B, if she lies about it, that's her butt. So she'll just assume the posture that every single one of these agency heads assume, which is bleep me, bleep you. Plain and simple. And yeah, Scott was bringing up a good point. Like Patel and Hegseth and Bondi, they're so ready with a quip or with a little, like they have their own little one sheet on everybody that's going to be asking them questions. And they can come prepared with like very specific personal counterattacks. And these Democrats are like, oh, like clutching your pearls isn't a strategy, people. Like, she's ready for a counterpunch. Why aren't you? You've got the moral high ground, certainly. And you've got the questions that should be answered, and she ducks and dodges and dives out of the way. And that's good optics. But when she counterpunches and makes good theater, you have no counterattack of your own. Time and time again. Clutching your pearls is not a counterattack. You know, and then, yeah, the right wing gets to go to social media and take her counter punches that are knockout blows for everyone. Dick Durbin, Schiff just beside himself. Like, she's knocking these people out verbally. She's winning the optics battle. Tough talk, counter punching. They got to come more prepared with a more aggressive counter tactic of their own. Clutching your pearls doesn't get it done. So Epstein was another one. That video opened up with Epstein, a question about Epstein from one of them. I can't remember which one. And the Epstein thing was interesting. There was a back and forth between Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, who is a sympathetic party to Pam. He's sympathetic. Okay. And there was a little back and forth. Now he just lightly probed this, right? And made it as easy as possible to act like he also gives a bleep, which he doesn't. Don't forget, the DOJ has previously said that it had no evidence that Epstein blackmailed anyone. That's their words. We have no evidence. Well, just recently, Howard Lutnick, I love when these guys right under Trump are as incompetent as he is. For the most part, they're more competent, which is why they are leading these assaults, right? Why Brendan Carr's leading that assault, and Miller's leading this assault, and Holman's leading that assault. Because these people, for the most part, are more competent. They'll come up with the policy and they'll enact it. They'll execute it, right? But even them, they are not the best people. We know that. He claims that. We know that that's not true. And when they screw up, it's fun. It's just great. It's fun for us. Like when Miller screwed up there, or when Lutnick screwed up right here. Lutnick went and he talked to the New York Post, Lutnick did. And by the way, that mashup video of Pam not answering the questions, thank you, WAPO, that was awesome. Axios has done amazing reporting on this. Some of this I'm reading to you now is from the New York Times. Definitely dive in if you want more details on what some of the stuff that was said in the back and forth. But we're just bringing you the juicy stuff. But thank you to those outlets. So Lutnick screwed up just like Miller did. He went and he talked to the New York Post. And he said, quote, Mr. Epstein was the greatest blackmailer ever, unquote. That flies in the face of the DOJ and the FBI finding absolutely no evidence of blackmail within any of the Epstein evidence. Okay. And don't forget, Lutnick was a neighbor of Epstein's. He knew Epstein. He knew people affected by Epstein, you know, the upper crust who may have been actually blackmailed by him. Lutnick had a personal view on the inside. He knew Epstein. He was confident when he said that. So Mr. Kennedy, sympathetic Senator Kennedy, asked Miss Bondi about those claims. And whether anybody at the FBI or the Justice Department had interviewed Mr. Lutnick. You would think that Lutnick says something like that, they would go and say, hey, we went and said there's no evidence of this, so what are you talking about? No, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. She said no one has talked to him. And Kennedy went on just a little bit and said that if Mr. Lutnick, and asked her, well, you know, Shouldn't you talk to him? He pressed just a little bit and said, well, shouldn't you talk to him if he said these statements? And she said that if Mr. Lutnick wants to speak to the FBI and if Kash Patel, the Bureau's director, wants him interviewed, that would absolutely happen. Nope, none of those things are going to happen. No, Kash Patel is not going to ask to speak to Howard Lutnick. And Howard Lutnick, he is right directly up President Trump's ass. There is no way he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go talk to the FBI about the claims that I made that make your DOJ look like liars. Yeah, I'm going to quickly go do that. That's first on my list of agenda. That's the first thing Lutnick wants to do, is go verify just how stupid he made the DOJ look. So those things aren't going to happen. Kash Patel's not going to want to talk to Lutnick. Lutnick's not going to want to talk to Patel. Okay? And Kennedy, oops. Oops on you, bud. Love it. Love it when these people trip up. Love it when these people trip up. Can't get enough of it. And they're about to trip up again. They're about to make a major mistake. But this goes along, what I'm going to tell you now, goes right along with their strategy of we'll just crap on the Constitution and let the Supreme Court clean it up later. This goes right in with that philosophy, that chaos. Shock, as Vaught described it. His own words. This goes right along with this. There was high drama when Josh Hawley and Lindsey Graham got their chance to speak. They expounded on this gigantic Jack Smith conspiracy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. they went right hard at this. Now, right after the January 6th riots, there were investigations. You remember Jack Smith, hotshot special attorney? He was on the case, Jack Smith, and he was interviewing people, collecting evidence, reviewing evidence, conducting an investigation. Within that investigation, he subpoenaed, didn't have to get an order, it wasn't unclassified, wasn't unredacted, nothing super classified. He simply went and got the phone records of a select group of Republicans, not to tap what they're saying, but just wanted to know at what time did they make certain calls and to what length were those calls. That's what Jack Smith did. He did not listen in. Okay? He did not listen in. Chuck Grassley, one day before this hearing, released a one-page unredacted memo that he got a hold of detailing this tolling of the calls. That's what it's called, tolling, where you go and you find out simply who made calls and at what length. That's it. No listening in. The document says the FBI special agent, Jack Smith, he told the calls of Ron Johnson, Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, who we're about to hear from, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Cynthia Loomis, Marsha Blackburn, and Mike Kelly. All right? And Grassley warned there's going to be consequences, is what Chuck Grassley said. There's going to be consequences for the people involved in this. And if heads don't roll in this town, then nothing changes, he said. Now, he did, in this memo, specifically state that no calls were listened in on. He specifically stated that. Let's hear Josh Hawley get all upset. Oh, Josh Hawley's mad.
I've also heard them said, and I just wrote it down because I wanted to be sure I heard it correctly. I've heard them say that Joe Biden never targeted his political enemies. Joe Biden never directed his attorney general to target his political opponents. That's interesting, because I could have sworn that yesterday we learned that the FBI tapped my phone. Let's look at it. We've got a list. Tapped my phone, tapped Lindsey Graham's phone, tapped Marsha Blackburn's phone, tapped 5 other phones of United States senators. Gee, it sure looks like targeting political opponents to me, and yet I haven't heard a word from that side of the dais about any concern whatsoever. We've got nothing but concerns today, but no concern at all for a Justice Department that is tapping the phones of sitting United States senators because who knows why. They don't like them. They're members of the opposition party. They're Republicans. They're conservatives. You've seen this document, Attorney General Bondi. Well, what was going on here? Who ordered this? Who ordered the tapping of the phones of United States senators?
Senator Hawley, I cannot discuss the details of that right now for very good reason.
You're going to...
All right, she thinks she's clever. It's a lie. I'm sorry. It's a federal offense to lie to senators. Is it a crime for senators to lie to the subject of the hearing? I'd like to know that. Is it a crime for Josh Hawley, knowing damn well that those phones were not tapped? Scott's telling me it's not. That takes the drama out of it, Scott. Don't look. We deal with truth here, but sometimes, Scott, your truth it takes the fun out of things. Okay, it's not a federal offense for Josh Hawley to sit up there and lie. Yeah, they can't get sued. They can't get indicted or whatever. Fine. But Josh Hawley just lied. He knows full damn well that those phones were not tapped. He knows that. He knows it full well. He's not mistaken or misinterpreted things. He knows they weren't tapped. He knows it was a simple tolling. He knows that. And he lied. This is what I call the straw man portion of the show, where the Republicans build up this straw man so they can light it on fire. They're building this fake non-issue into a huge conspiracy so they can light it on fire. And a big bonfire distracts you from other things, makes you talk about it. But it's going to be a big mistake for them, because in building this straw man, they are making a tactical error. Their rhetoric is too fiery. It's too hot. It's going a little too far. Now, Lindsey Graham talked about this. He was he was the victim of this tapping. Lindsey Graham said, "Can you tell me why my phone records, taken at a time when he was the chairman of the committee," okay, so this is when he was the chairman of the committee, "were sought by Jack Smith's agents? Why did they ask to know who I called and what I was doing from January 4th to January 7th? Now, the first part of that, why did they ask to know who I called? That's true. Or what I was doing. That's a lie. They didn't tap it. They have no idea what you were doing on those phone calls, Lindsey, and you know it. You know it." And he asked Bondi, "Do you think this is an abuse of power? Do you think this is abuse of power?" And Bondi said, "Mr. Smith wasted $50 million of our money in an effort to put President Trump in jail." That's the rhetoric that's heating up. And where is it going? Where's the point where this all gets lit on fire? It's when Kash Patel says he's going to end the weaponization and hold those involved in this responsible with an FBI investigation. And that's why Pam is over here being all clever and coy saying, "Oh, Mr. Hawley, I can't talk to you about that right now because there's a very good reason for that." And the reason is because they're going to direct Kash Patel to investigate Jack Smith. And they're going to make a big show of trying to indict Jack Smith. And the whole thing is going to be built on a lie that Jack Smith wiretapped and listened into their conversations. That is what Hawley is claiming. That is what Lindsey Graham is claiming. And that is what Kash Patel is going to run to. That's where he's going to run to. And he's going to try to indict Jack Smith. And that retribution presidency thing will continue. The irony of having Ed Martin as your weaponization czar to end the weaponization of government agencies, they are going to once again weaponize the FBI and the DOJ to go after a President Trump adversary. Plain and simple. It is a misstep. There is no crime there. There is no there at all. Tolling is something that can be granted through a simple subpoena. Did you make a call? And how long was it?
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because silence isn't an option.
All right, so watch for that. Watch for that. I got a couple predictions today. I got a couple predictions in the works. Scotty liked them. He was titillated by my predictions earlier. That was genuine titillation, Scott. Don't try it. I got a couple predictions today. Okay? But yeah, that Jack Smith indictment or the attempt to get Jack Smith indicted is one of them. That's where they're going with this. They're building up that straw man so they can burn it down in front of America. It's complete nothing burger. No crimes committed. So, I want to end this little Pam Bondi theater with one quick thing, which is they talked about the Comey indictment. Now, we're not going to get deep into videos and the back and forth. We'll just mention it. But she said, to Amy Klobuchar, Klobuchar asked about career prosecutors finding insufficient evidence to indict James Comey. She's talking specifically about Eric Siebert and the U.S. Attorney for Virginia, the former U.S. Attorney for Virginia. That's who she's talking about. Eric Siebert and his team couldn't find enough evidence, so they would not seek an indictment. He had to be fired. He had to go. Now, he was a loyal soldier. He's a Trump lifer, Republican lifer. He just had just a little bit too much integrity to do that. In the words of Meatloaf, I won't do that. No, he won't indict Comey. His integrity wouldn't let him. So he didn't fight the firing. He just said, peace. Go get somebody who'll do this. And he stepped aside. In comes Lindsey Hannigan. Literal hours later, grand jury indictment. Just like that. She said, Pam Bondi, when responding to questions about this to Amy Klobuchar, said, I'm not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, which is by one of the most liberal grand juries in the country. She keeps trying to prop up the significance of a liberal-leaning area where this grand jury was convened and saying these are liberals that brought the indictment. But I told you, and especially if you watch Law and Order, a good prosecutor or even a mediocre one like Lindsey Hannigan could get a ham sandwich indicted. And that's what they did. They got, a ham sandwich has as much veracity as the charges against Comey. None. So that's what they did. They got the indictment. Lindsey Hannigan was willing to do it. Okay? And she doesn't want to talk about it. And Lindsey, once again, comes to bat for Pam Bondi on the Comey thing. When Lindsey gets his chance, he starts ticking through a litany of grievances related to Comey's actions as FBI director and his investigation into Trump and Russia during the election, right? Comey was this, Comey was that, unprofessional, this and that. Lindsey went off on him. He said, why are you looking at Comey? Give me a break. Why are we looking at Comey? Because he ran an FBI and personally knew about exculpatory information and let it slide. That's why. He's offended that legal experts are offended by this indictment. He can't believe there's anybody out there in the country that doesn't see the legitimacy of this indictment. It's crazy to him. Because Comey was such a bad FBI director. Well, fast forward, Comey was arraigned. In Virginia, he pleaded not guilty. Was this today? This morning? This was this morning. He pleaded not guilty. And by the way, while we're talking about, weaponization of the DOJ, while we're talking about legal retribution against his enemies, Trump said today that J.B. Pritzker and Brendan Johnson, the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago, should be under arrest. That's what Trump said. That was in a Truth Social post. Tin Pot Dictator, anyone? I'm the ridiculous one? When I talk about authoritarianism and dictatorship, I'm the one being hyperbolic. He said in his own words on Truth Social, arrest Pritzker and arrest Johnson. For what? That's also not your decision to make. So, while we're along that theme, okay, Comey was arraigned. Trial set for January 5th. Comey has said, I am innocent. Here's a real interesting part. And I truly do have my doubts. This isn't another prediction. I just simply have my doubts that we'll get to that trial. Why do I have my doubts? Because Comey's lawyer intends to have motions filed to kill this. Twofold. He is challenging that this whole indictment is a weaponization of the administration. And that's unconstitutional. The president is not allowed to point out adversaries and tell his DOJ, arrest them, arrest them, arrest them. They're guilty as hell. He's not allowed to do that. That's one. Two, which I find infinitely interesting, is they are going to challenge the appointment of Lindsay Halligan herself. That's interesting to me. I love that. We heard about the outrage from lawyers and judges within the districts around Virginia and inside Virginia, career lawyers, career judges in that area who were appalled by her appointment. An insurance lawyer from Florida appointed to this top position in Virginia. They were all outraged. I am very interested to see what grounds he's going to use to challenge Lindsay Halligan's appointment. I can't wait. It could get down and dirty. These attacks on Lindsay herself could get real good. Let's see what they dig up on her. Because if they go on a basis of, she's unqualified or this was weaponization, I'm not sure what angle they're going to go as it concerns to Halligan herself, but I'm very interested. That's going to be super interesting to me, and this might not even make it to trial. We'll see if they're successful killing the whole thing. But indeed, he faces charges of lying to Congress and obstructing Congress's investigation. That's what he is charged with. The judge, Michael S. Nachmanov, he's a Biden appointee. Uh-oh. That ain't good. That ain't good, Administration General Counsel. That ain't good, Lindsay Halligan. That's not good. And that is the reason. That's the tipping factor for me when it comes to a real chance this gets killed. I know some of you may know, every one of you watching knows the law better than me. Some of you may be lawyers yourself. I may be talking specifically to a few people. And you may be saying, Brett, you're being naive. You don't know enough about precedent on trying to kill cases. It's super tough, and those aren't going to be enough, or some of you may have your doubts, and that's fine. Let me just be a babe in the woods for a moment and dream and hope that this doesn't even make it to trial, because that would be such an embarrassment. Oh, the embarrassment of it all. And the precedent it might set if John Bolton ends up here, or Letitia James ends up here, arraigned, or Lisa Cook ends up here, arraigned, or if Jack Smith ends up here, arraigned. The precedent this might set. And the embarrassment. Oh, the embarrassment. It could be amazing. Now, I want to get to one last thing. And I'm going to try to make it quick. But I want to give you a bit of an update on the furloughed workers. Now, Trump has sent a memo saying, hey, not only were these furloughs needed, and these firings might be necessary, but these furloughs, we're not going to pay them back. We don't have to, is what they're saying. The OMB said the legislation that ends the current lapse in appropriation must include express language appropriating funds for back pay for furloughed employees, or such payments cannot be made. That's what Vought's saying. Why is he saying that? Why is he saying express legislation must be written to pay back these furloughed workers? We're not even talking about anybody fired yet. We're talking about just the furloughed workers. We may not have to pay them back at all. Why is he saying that? Under the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019, it says that the furloughed workers are to be paid their back pay, hard stop. That's when it was written. But it was shortly amended afterwards. And the amendment says, the law's amended version, which added a phrase saying furloughed workers shall be compensated subject to enactment of appropriation acts ending the lapse. So let me put this in more simple terms, and watch how this all comes together in a genius fashion for Russ Vought. He's saying under GEFTA, they're calling it the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, What the fine print is saying in the amendment to that act is, yes, the furloughed workers are owed money, but we don't pay that money till Congress appropriates it, either in the new budget or in the continuing resolution. Language could be written in. But if those two things don't happen, we don't have to pay you back. So, big picture. Furloughed workers are now hearing, oh my God, constitutionally, they might not pay us back. Then I quit. If they quit, they are no longer an RIF, which is a reduction in force firing. If they quit, we don't owe them severance. Remember the story I told you about the labor unions suing the Trump administration and the OMB over these potential firings, trying to block it? Their clever legal strategy is, under the Anti-Deficiency Act, the government can't spend any money during a shutdown. If you fire this mass of federal workers, these RIFs, you owe them severance. That massive severance payout, that is a government expenditure that is unconstitutional. Clever little tactic. Except what if all of these furloughed workers quit because they won't get paid? That's not an RIF. Meanwhile, the Republicans can put that pressure on the Democrats. Not only are we going to fire people, we're not going to pay back the furloughed workers. You better come to the table. And if the Democrats come to the table and they say, well, wait a second, Senate, we now have to add language to this continuing resolution to get these workers paid, along with the subsidies, along with the $1 trillion for Medicare and Medicaid, along with the foreign aid brought back and the public broadcasting money back. And we want to claw your power back. Republicans will say, America, are you seeing this? Look at this litany of demands that they want met before we'll open the government back up. This is ridiculous. And another thing that the Democrats have to address. They have to address it. What if they don't address it? And then we come back from the shutdown and a Republican Congress just says, you know what? We can't afford to pay these furloughed workers for that back pay. And President Trump's out here saying, listen, in 2019, during my last shutdown, I made sure those workers got paid. And he did. And then this time around, he says, hey, you Republicans in Congress, you better pay those workers. While meanwhile, in backroom meetings saying, don't pay them, make it hurt. So then Republicans come out and say, Mr. President, we would love to pay these workers back. We really would. But you saw the cuts we made in the one big beautiful bill. We got to make more cuts. We can't afford to pay these workers. Sorry, Mr. President, we're the bad guys. You see it all coming together? Now here's the frickin' rub. You want to see the dirty side of this? Federal workers overwhelmingly contributed to Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential election campaign. And the White House knows it. You see how it's all coming together? Even the retribution fits in. You furloughed workers, we're not going to pay you back. Check out the fine print on GEFTA. We don't have to pay you back immediately. It isn't self-executing. That's what the White House said. It's not self-executing. This time, we can't just go around Congress and give them their money back. Oh, no. Even though we've overstepped Congress every step of the way, this time, we got to have Congress appropriate that money. Or the Dems got to get us to put it in the continuing resolution somehow. Oh, you didn't get it in the continuing resolution? The Dems failed. You didn't get Medicare and Medicaid back? The Dems failed. They may come to the table with the ACA subsidies because that does hurt a lot of Republicans. And then if they do come out of this shutdown, Congress might just say to these 750,000 furloughed workers, we're not going to pay you.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.